President Donald Trump notched key domestic wins this week, as the Senate passed a massive bipartisan spending bill to fund the federal government through late 2026, even as he aggressively pursues deep agency cuts and deficit slashing. This $1.7 trillion package, cleared yesterday by a 72-28 vote, averts a shutdown while allocating funds for Trump's priorities like border security and military readiness, but it drew his fire for not going far enough on waste. Trump hailed it as a step toward fiscal sanity on Truth Social, vowing to use line-item vetoes and reprogramming authority to redirect billions from deep state bloat to tax relief and infrastructure. Just yesterday, January 30th, Trump signed a flurry of executive orders at the White House, live-streamed to cheering crowds, reshaping federal priorities in line with his America First overhaul. The centerpiece, executive order on prioritizing the warfighter in defense contracting, mandating agencies favor U.S.-made gear, cap executive pay at $5 million for defense firms, and slash procurement red tape to boost readiness amid Iran tensions. Another bombshell order, addressing threats to the United States by the government of Cuba, tightens sanctions and travel, curbs, labeling Havana a state sponsor of terror for proxy support and election meddling. These actions build on Trump's 2026 blitz, already 7 executive orders per Federal Register tallies targeting bureaucracy like a chainsaw, ending radical day programs, cuts diversity quotas and hiring, replacing them with merit-based systems across agencies, reforming federal hiring and restoring merit, imposes probationary periods, freezes non-essential posts, and prioritizes veterans, aiming to shrink the 2.1 million civilian workforce by 15% via attrition and buyouts. Protecting Americans against invasion ramps up ICE enforcement, deports criminal aliens first, and claws back sanctuary city funds, yielding 150,000 removals since inauguration. Deficit hawks cheer. Trump claims $500 billion in savings from agency mergers, regulatory rollbacks, and his Department of Government Efficiency DOGE, led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, which audits $1 trillion in annual spending. The spending bill boosts DOGE with $10 billion, funding AI-driven fraud detection that already nabbed $20 billion in improper payments last month. Critics like Senate Democrats decry gutting essential services, but polls show 58% approval for cuts to education and EPA per Rasmussen. Trump's reshaping hits healthcare too. Great American Recovery Initiative enforces price transparency, bans big pharma kickbacks, and ties Medicare bonuses to outcomes, projecting $300 billion in savings over a decade. Energy orders unleash Alaska drilling, zero out green subsidies, and fast-track nuclear reactors for energy dominance. Aviation safety gets keeping Americans safe in aviation, mandating stricter pilot vetting post-recent crashes. Broader context, these moves counter the spending bill's pork $50 billion for foreign aid Trump wants vetoed while cincing with economic boasts. No taxes on tips over time, or Social Security lifted 10 million seniors from poverty brackets. Mortgage bond buys dropped rates to 4.2%, sparking a housing boom. Refugee caps realign admissions to persecuted Christians and allies, slashing numbers 70%. Opposition mounts, unions sue over hiring freezes, blue states sue on deportations. But GOP unity and court wins 6-3 SCOTUS on merit hiring give momentum. Trump frames it as draining the swamp to .0, biggest payroll cuts ever, deficits plummeting, America wins. Yesterday's signing ceremony ended with, "Government works for you now, not bureaucrats." Implementation starts February 1st with DOGE reports due March. This fiscal pivot risks shutdown fights but embodies Trump's promise: cut waste, secure borders, unleash growth. Watch midterms voters reward results. Trump's agency cuts, part of his aggressive drain the swamp to .0 agenda since his January 2025 inauguration, have reshaped federal programs through layoffs, funding slashes, and executive orders targeting bureaucracy deemed wasteful or ideologically misaligned. By late January 2026, the Department of Government Efficiency DOGE, co-led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, claimed $500 billion in projected savings via 15% workforce reductions, about 300,000 jobs, agency mergers, and grant cancellations. Though critics highlight service disruptions, health and HHS impacts, the Department of Health and Human Services (HHS) lost 24% of CDC staff through layoffs, early retirements, and a 43-day shutdown in 2025, delaying disease tracking and vaccine distribution. HHS axed $12 billion in grants for infectious disease control, mental health, and addiction treatment. Originally COVID-era funds repurposed for measles and bird flu, states like California report gaps in local testing. Medicare faces $1 trillion in decade-long trims via Trump's Great American Recovery Initiative. enforcing price transparency, but risking rural hospital closures as reimbursements drop 14%. Education disruptions. Education department grants worth billions were terminated, hitting teacher training, civics, arts, and digital equity programs. The Digital Equity Act's $100 of millions for student tech access and skills courses vanished, stranding initiatives in Indiana and elsewhere. Lawsuits linger. Environmental justice curricula and violence prevention grants for schools like Franklin, NH, were cancelled, forcing districts to scrap safety trainings and day-linked projects. Environmental and climate rollbacks. EPA shuttered its Office of Research and Development, laid off thousands, and nixed $20 billion in green bank grants for clean energy under the Inflation Reduction Act. Nonprofits await court rulings on blocked funds. Over 1,600 NSF research grants, including 100 plus on climate, ended. Clean energy tax credits face face-outs via the Big Beautiful Bill, slowing solar, wind projects. Alaska drilling surged, but air quality monitoring lags in affected areas. Social safety net cuts. Medicaid shrinks by nearly $1 trillion over 10 years for 10% reduction, with work requirements and block grants straining coverage for 70 million. SNAP benefits for 42 million drop $186 billion 20% cut, the largest ever via stricter eligibility, hitting food banks in rural states hardest. Public broadcasting loses corporation for public broadcasting funds, threatening rural stations reliant on grants. Workforce and operational strain for 110,000 plus federal layoffs across agencies like DHS and EPA have delayed services. Passport waits hit 6 months. IRS audit slow. VA claims backlog grows 20%. Merit-based hiring froze non-essential posts, prioritizing veterans. But unions report morale crashes and ERA spikes in benefits processing. Foreign aid via USAID plummets, risking education for 23 million kids and food for 95 million abroad, indirectly boosting U.S. refugee claims. Public and economic reactions. Polls show 58% back cuts to EPA education, but 45% worry about services. Savings fund tax relief. No tax on tips over time. Brookings warns of crash risk from overstaffing trims, yet DOGE's AI fraud detection recovered $20 billion. Blue states sue over sanctuary fund clause. GOP states see efficiency gains. Trump Senate spending bill balances cuts with must funds like defense. Long-term deficit drops projected at $2 trillion by 2028. But lawsuits and midterms test sustainability. Supporters hail leaner government, opponents decry vulnerability in crises.